Good day, everyone. Welcome to our Arts 9 subject. In this quarter, we are going to study about Western classical art traditions. For this lesson, our objectives are the following. First, recall understanding of art elements and principles. Second, understand the importance of painting to the development of historical events in different periods. Third, recognize distinct characteristics of paintings from different periods. Before we proceed to our main lesson, let's have first a recapitulation of what you have studied in your past grade levels. What are elements of arts? Elements of art are stylistic features that are included within an art piece to help the artist communicate. We have 7 most common elements, and these include line, shape, color, texture, form, value, and space. Line is a mark made by a pointed tool such as brush, pen, or a stick. It is a moving point. It can be horizontal, vertical, diagonal, straight, curved, thick, or thin. Next one is shape. Shape is an enclosed area that has 2 dimensions, length and width. It is the area between and around the object. Next one we have is color. It is the light reflected off of objects. It has 3 characteristics: hue, or the main property of color; value, or how light or dark it is; and intensity, or how bright or dull it is. Next one is value. It is the degree of lightness or darkness of an artwork. We also have texture. It is the surface quality that can be seen and felt. It can be rough, smooth, soft, or hard. Forms are 3-dimensional shapes expressing length, width, and depth. Our last one for elements of art is space. It is used to create the illusion of depth. It can be 2 or 3 dimension. Next thing that we are going to recap is the principles of art. We have contrast, repetition, pattern, emphasis, balance, movement, and unity. Contrast is the arrangement of opposite elements in a composition so as to create visual interest. We have light versus dark, rough versus smooth, small versus large, and so on and so forth. Next one is repetition. It is the use of 2 or more elements or forms within a composition. The systematic arrangement of our repeated shapes or forms create patterns. Pattern creates visual effect that helps carry the viewer and the artist's idea throughout the work. Emphasis is used to make certain parts of an artwork stand out. It is the place in which an artist draws your eye to first. Next is balance. It is the distribution of visual weight on either side of the artwork. It can be symmetrical or asymmetrical balance. Next is movement. It is how the eye moves through the composition, leading the attention of the viewer from one aspect of the work to another. This can create illusion of action. And last one is unity. Unity is how everything in the work of art works together. Let's go now to the timeline of arts. Under ancient art, we have the prehistoric and Egyptian periods. In classical art, we have the Greek and Roman periods. And in medieval art, we have Byzantine, Romanesque, and Gothic. We should know that even before humans learned to read and write, they were already artists based from the discoveries around the world. Let's start with ancient art first. Under this, we have prehistoric and ancient Greek period. Let's talk about prehistoric painting. This period is classified into three periods such as Paleolithic or Old Stone Age, Mesolithic or Middle Stone Age, and Neolithic or New Stone Age. This period includes all human existence before the emergence of writing. Their art is of interest not only to the art of historians, but also to archaeologists and anthropologists, for their art is the only one clue along with fossils, pollens, and because of their artwork gives them an understanding about their culture and human life. Their paintings were found inside the caves, which may have been their way of communicating with each other. These paintings may be more an artifact of the archaeological evidence than a true picture of humans' first created art. Prehistoric drawings of animals were usually correct in proportion. In this period, hunting was critical for their survival, and these animal art caves has often been interpreted as an attempt to influence the success of the hunt. This is the Cave of Lascaux. The art of Lascaux was both painted on and engraved into the uneven walls of the cave. This depicts mainly animals, but it has also significant amount of abstract symbols and even a human. There are 6 sections for the artwork inside the cave. These are the Great Hall of the Bulls, the lateral passage, the shaft of the dead man, the chamber of engravings, the painted gallery, and the chamber of felines. This cave was open to the public for several years until 1963. Today, the cave is closed to the public. In ancient Egyptian paintings, the tomb walls of the rich and powerful were often filled with paintings. These paintings were there to help the person in the afterlife. It makes the deceased afterlife place pleasant. They often depicted the person buried passing into the afterlife. They would show scenes of this person happy in the afterlife. It emphasizes also the importance of life after death and the preservation of knowledge in the past. Most paintings were highly stylized, symbolic, and shows profile view of an animal or a person. This painting named Sarcophagus of Tutankhamen shows the king's event of life while he was still on earth and the scenes that he expects to encounter in the underworld of his death. In this painting, we can see that Egyptian art shows the body as completely as possible. This serves an aesthetic purpose as well as a religious one. Since we are done with ancient art, let's go now to classical art. Classical art is divided into Greek and Roman. Let's talk about first the Greek painting. Paintings during Greek era were mostly found in vases, panels, and tomb. It depicts natural figures with dynamic composition. The subject were mostly battle scenes, mythological figures, and everyday scenes. In Greek paintings, fresco and encaustic are the most common method. First, fresco. Fresco painting is a method wherein water-based pigments were applied on freshly applied plaster, usually on wall surfaces. Next is encaustic. Encaustic is where they use hot wax from beeswax or a product made from honeycomb. During Greek era, Kirch tile or Kirch vases were common. The shapes are pea-like, lecanis, lebes gamicus, and crayon. Pea-like is used for holding liquids. It is a wine container. Lecanis is a low bowl with 2 horizontal handles and a low broad foot that was generally used as a cosmetic container or as a gift for brides, given by their fathers on their wedding day and filled with trinkets. Next is Labes Gamicos. It has with high handles and lid used to carry bridal bath or wedding ceremonies. It was used in the ritual sprinkling of the bride with water before the wedding. Last one is crater. It is a bowl used for mixing wine and water. Panel painting was also common during Greek era. This painting is on flat panels of wood. Most of the panel paintings do not exist anymore. Pizza panel is the oldest surviving Greek panel paintings. Tomb or wall painting was also common during Greek era. It uses tempera or water base or encaustic or wax. The paintings on the four walls depict a symposium scene, while the cover slab or building shows the famous scene that gives the tomb its name, a young man diving into a curling and waving stream of water. Let's go now to Roman era. In this era, most of the paintings were copied or imitated from Hellenic Greek paintings. In Hellenistic painting, they used three-dimensional perspective and the use of light and shade to render form and realism. Fresco technique was also used in brightly colored background. Subjects were animals, everyday life, still life, mythological subjects, portraits, and landscapes. Mosaics became a very popular art form during the time of the Roman Empire. It is an art process where an image is created using an assemblage of small pieces of colored glass stones or other materials. The Romans would often have these mosaics in their homes as a sign of wealth and importance, and in public buildings and bathhouses. Head of Alexander is an example of a mosaic during Roman era. Alexander is depicted in a profile view facing the left side of the mosaic. His pose was in action killing a man with a spear in his right arm. This depicts the battle between the armies of Alexander the Great and Darius III of Persia. Fresco from the Villa of Mysteries is named after the Hall of Mysteries located in the residential part of the building which faces the sea. A large continuous fresco that covers three walls, one of the most preserved ancient paintings, depicts a mysterious rite that is reserved for the devotees of the cult. Another example of mosaic is Bosco Trecase, Pompeii. Let's go now to the final period in this quarter. It is the medieval period. Medieval period or medieval art is divided into Byzantine era, Romanesque era, and Gothic era. This period depicts the departure from classical art forms that were highly realistic in nature. The lively styles of paintings which had been invented in Greek and Rome lived in this era as well. It could be seen on the interiors of churches because the subjects were more on religious or Christian subjects. Empress Theodora can be seen on the painting, The Court of Empress Theodora. She is one of the most powerful Byzantine women in Byzantine history. She used her power and influence to promote religious and social policies that were important to her. She was one of the first rulers to recognize the rights of women. Romanesque paintings are largely placed mosaics on the walls of the churches that follows a strict frontal pose. This era is known for a remarkable variety of artistic tradition. This is a painting of Christ in Majesty. It is in Romanesque era. It shows traces of Mozarabic influence through elongated oval faces, large staring eyes, and long noses. This is the Western Christian image of Christ seated on a throne as ruler of the world. In Gothic painting or Gothic era, Wall painting disappeared during this period. The paintings have been confined in the illumination of manuscript pages. Subjects were usually popular legends and love stories. It also depicts patterns like mille fleurs or thousand flowers where we can see background style of many different small flowers and plants. Rose window from the north is an example painting in Gothic era. These are the large circular stained glass windows found in Gothic churches. Another example of painting in Gothic era is Lady and the Unicorn Tapestry. They elaborate mille fleurs or thousand flower backgrounds form hypnotic patterns. So thank you for listening, students. So we are done with the paintings during ancient art, classical art, and medieval art. So on our next lesson, we are going to study about the sculptures during this period. Thank you for listening.